All right, guys. So at this point, we should be in chapter 5 of our novel of Mice and Men. We learned a few things in chapter 4. First, we learned more about the character Crooks, the stable buck. We learned how being black on this ranch and also being disabled causes him to feel isolated and lonely, to a point where when he is finally included, he doesn't really know how to properly accept the fact that he's being included. He is resentful and upset and grumpy and rude because he doesn't know how to be any better. We also learn a little bit about Curly's wife. With her, she teaches us that her husband, he spends so much time trying to impress her and impress other people that she doesn't really get to spend quality time just with him as a partner and a husband. And because she doesn't get what she needs from her own marriage, she steps outside of it and seeks attention elsewhere. As we begin chapter 5, we get back into the lives of the main characters in the story, specifically that of Lennie. That's where we start. I'm going to tell you guys something big is about to happen. I'm only going to read a part of it, and then you have to find out the rest. From outside came the clang of horseshoes on a playing peg, and the shouts of men, playing, encouraging, jeering. But in the barn, it was quiet and humming and lazy and warm. Only Lennie was in the barn, and Lennie sat in the hay beside a packing case under a manger in the end of the barn that had not been filled with hay. Lennie sat in the hay and looked at a little dead puppy. He looked at a little dead puppy that lay in front of him. Lennie looked at it for a long time, and then he put out his huge hand and stroked it clear from one end to the other. And Lennie said softly to the puppy, "Why'd you got to get killed? You ain't so little as mice. I didn't bounce you hard." He bent the pup's head up and looked in its face. And he said to it, "Now maybe George ain't gonna let me tend no rabbits if he finds out you got killed." He scooped a little hollow and laid the puppy in it and covered it over with hay, out of sight. But he continued to stare at the mound he had made. He said, "This ain't no bad thing, like I got to hide in the brush. Oh, no, this ain't. I'll tell George I found it dead." He unburied the puppy and inspected it, and he stroked it from its ears to its tail. He went on sorrowfully, "But he'll know. George always knows. He'll say, 'You done it. Don't try to put nothing over on me.' And he'll say, 'Now, just for that, you don't get to tend no rabbits.'" So we know how excited Lennie is for when George and Lennie finally get their own place, and they get a little section where Lennie can tend rabbits that they're going to buy and raise. The thing is, though, that Lennie, he's so strong. We know from the beginning of the book that he used to carry around mice in his pocket because he liked the way that they felt, but he would pet them so hard or squeeze them so tightly that he would kill them. And so eventually George prevented him, or made his best effort to prevent him from having the mice. Now he's been given a puppy, and his job has been to raise this puppy up, and it's kind of been like practice for Lennie for when he gets the rabbits. George knows this, Lennie knows this, but he fails. He ends up killing the puppy. We don't know exactly what happened, but we can probably assume that he pet the puppy too strongly, too roughly. In some way, he treated the puppy in a way that it wasn't ready for, and it died. And so now George is really worried because his big life dream is to be able to care for these rabbits. What if he can't? What if George won't let him anymore? So as we move on, and I'm going to skip a little bit forward now to around 79%, and I'm going to read another segment. Curly's wife came around the end of the last stall. She came very quietly so that Lennie didn't see her. She has a habit of doing this. She wore her bright cotton dress and the mules with the red ostrich feathers. It's fancy. Her face was made up, and little sausage curls were all in place. She was quite near to him before Lennie looked up and saw her. Now, we remember that whenever Curly's wife comes around Lennie, for whatever reason, he is flabbergasted by her. He's in awe of her. His mouth drops open. He stares. He can't even help the fact that he's paying her so much attention. And she likes that. So we don't know what's going to happen as this chapter moves forward, but we do know that already Lennie has started with this puppy that he's killed. He's still with the puppy, and in walks Curly's wife, all beautiful and made up, seeking attention. I don't think this spells a recipe for success, but more like a recipe for disaster. Not sure. Don't know how things are going to work out. But I want you guys to find out and then let me know on Edmodo. I look forward to hearing what you all had to say about what you read in Chapter 5. Enjoy.